everybody, and welcome to another video for chapter 11 of Carmilla. It's been a bit of time, mostly because I lost the book. I did that thing that I always do, which is I think to myself, you know what? I'm gonna put this in a safe place. And inevitably, I forget where the safe place is and I lose it, which is exactly what happened here. So it's been a while. I apologize. I'm going to try and keep better track of the books that I'm actively using. Now, you might wonder why I am sitting on the floor um, in front of my couch. And that's because when I started getting everything together, getting set up, there was a cat behind me curled up, all sweet and cute on the cushion, and he looked so nice and peaceful with his he was doing that thing where they have the little paws, the front paws curled up like that, and he looked very cute. And I didn't want to move him. So I thought, well, that's fine. I will set up just in front of him and he can be a part of the video. But as cats often do, as soon as I was ready to go, he decided that he was just going to get up and leave and go somewhere else. And then I thought, well, I'm already here. I'm not setting up again to to move everything around and find a different spot. I'm here. I'm committed. Cat, or in this case, no cat. That's what's happening. So that's why we're in this. That's why we're in this kind of weird spot here. Anyway, welcome. After all of that, before we get going, just the usual warnings. You know, these are pretty old stories that we read on this channel, and as such, they contain references to things about race, gender, religion, sexuality, whatever you can think of, really, that are rightly distasteful to a lot of modern people. And if that sounds not like something you want to hear or deal with today, feel free to find something that's a bit more your cup of tea. Related, the things that give rise to the spooky, macabre stories that we read on this channel tend to be, murders, suicides, again, things that are, maybe not what you want to hear right now. And again, if that's the case, feel free to move on to find something on the internet that's a little more like what you're looking for. Oh, perfect. From this angle, I can see the other cat, and I'm in a good position to intervene if she decides she wants to jump somewhere she's not supposed to be, or if she tries to pull that poster off the wall again. So if I get up really suddenly yelling, it's because I'm dealing with my cat, my other cat. Pardon me. You might have noticed new microphone as well. So testing out a few things. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, here we are. Carmilla. Ooh, shiny. Chapter 11. The story. With all my heart, said the general, with an effort, and after a short pause in which to arrange his subject, he commenced one of the strangest narratives I ever heard. My dear child was looking forward with great pleasure to the visit you had been so good as to arrange for her to your charming daughter. Here he made me a gallant but melancholy bow. In the meantime, we had an invitation to my old friend, the Count, I was going to say the Count Carlsberg, but Carlsberg's a beer, the Count Carlsfeld, whose Schloss is about 6 leagues to the other side of Karnstein. I was to attend the series of fetes which, you remember, were given by him in honor of his illustrious visitor, the Grand Duke Charles. Fancy. Yes, and very splendid, I believe they were, said my father. Princely, but then his hospitalities are quite regal. He has Aladdin's lamp. Well, good for him. It would be nice if we all did. The night from which my sorrow dates was devoted to a magnificent masquerade. The grounds were thrown open, the trees hung with colored lamps. There was such a display of fireworks as Paris itself had never witnessed. And such music, you know, is my weakness, such ravishing music, The finest instrumental band, perhaps, in the world, and the finest singers who could be collected from all the great operas in Europe. Yeah, dude is obviously loaded. As you wandered through these fantastically illuminated grounds, the moonlight chateau throwing a rosy light from its long rows of windows, you would suddenly hear these ravishing voices stealing from the silence of some grove or rising from some boats upon the lake. I felt myself, as I looked and listened, carried back into the romance and poetry of my early youth. That actually does sound like a really good party, not gonna lie. When the fireworks were ended and the ball beginning, we returned to the noble suite of rooms that were thrown open to the dancers. A masked ball, you know, is a brilliant sight, but so brilliant a spectacle of the kind I never saw before. It was a very aristocratic assembly. I was myself almost the only nobody present. I mean, who cares? You got the invitation. That's all that matters. That's all that matters. Enjoy your time at the rich fancy man's house that the rich fancy man is paying for. My dear child was looking quite beautiful. She wore no mask. I mean, that's kind of like directly contrary to the rules of a masquerade, but whatever. Her excitement and delight added an unspeakable charm to her features, always lovely. I remarked a young lady, dressed magnificently but wearing a mask, oh, a young lady who actually followed the rules, who appeared to me to be observing my ward with extraordinary interest. I had seen her earlier in the evening in the great hall, and again for a few minutes walking near us on the terrace, under the castle windows, similarly employed. A lady, also masked, richly and gravely dressed, and with a stately air, like a person of rank, accompanied her as a chaperone. Had the young lady not worn a mask, I could, of course, have been much more certain upon the question whether she was really watching my poor darling. I am now well assured that she was. We were now in one of the salons. My poor dear child had been dancing and was resting a little in one of the chairs near the door. I was standing near. The two ladies I have mentioned had approached, and the younger took the chair next to my ward, while her companion stood beside me, and for a little time addressed herself in a low tone to her charge. Availing herself of the privilege of her mask, she turned to me, and in the tone of an old friend, and calling me by name, opened a conversation with me which piqued my curiosity a good deal. She referred to many scenes where she had met me, at court and at distinguished houses. She alluded to little incidents which I had long ceased to think of, but which I found had only been lain in abeyance in my memory, for they instantly started into life at her touch. So either like gaslight gatekeep girl boss, or that is a vampire power. I became more and more curious to ascertain who she was every moment. She parried my attempts to discover very adroitly and pleasantly. The knowledge she showed of many passages in my life seemed to me all but unaccountable, and she appeared to take a not unnatural pleasure in foiling my curiosity, and in seeing me flounder in my eager perplexity from one conjecture to another. In the meantime, the young lady, whom her mother called by the odd name of Millarca, I mean, it might just be odd to you, like just because you've never heard of a name doesn't mean it's inherently weird, when she once or twice addressed her, had, with the same ease and grace, got into conversation with my ward. She introduced herself by saying that her mother was a very old acquaintance of mine. She spoke of the agreeable audacity which a mask rendered practicable. She talked like a friend, she admired her dress, and insinuated very prettily her admiration of her beauty. She amused her with laughing criticisms upon the people who crowded the ballroom, and laughed at my poor child's fun. She was very witty and lively when she pleased, and after a time they had grown very good friends, and the young stranger lowered her mask, displaying a remarkably beautiful face. I had never seen it before, neither had my dear child. But though it was new to us, the features were so engaging as well as lovely that it was impossible not to feel the attraction powerfully. Vampire power, just saying. My poor girl did so. I never saw anyone more taken with another at first sight, unless indeed it was the stranger herself, who seemed quite to have lost her heart to her. In the meantime, availing myself of the license of a masquerade, I put a few questions to the elder lady. You have puzzled me utterly, I said, laughing. Is that not enough? Won't you, now, consent to stand on equal terms and do me the kindness to remove your mask? Can any quest, can any quest, can any request be more unreasonable? She replied. Ask a lady to yield an advantage. Besides, how do you know you should recognize me? Years make changes. As you see, I said with a bow, and I suppose a rather melancholy little laugh. As philosophers tell us, she said. And how do you know that the sight of my face would help you? I should take chance of that, I answered. It is vain trying to make yourself out an old woman. Your figure betrays you. Kind of a, okay. That sure is a thing that he thought about to say, that he thought of saying in his brain and then said out loud with his human mouth. Years, nevertheless, have passed since I saw you, rather, since you saw me, for that is what I for that is what I am considering. Malarca there is my daughter. I cannot then be young, even in the opinion of people whom time has taught to be indulgent, and I may not like to be compared with what you remember me. You have no mask to remove. You can offer me nothing in exchange. My petition is to your pity to remove it, and mine to yours to let it stay where it is, she replied. Good lady. Well, then, at least, you will tell me whether you are French or German. You speak both languages so perfectly. I don't think I shall tell you that, General. You intend a surprise and are meditating the particular point of attack. At all events, you won't deny this, I said, that being honored by your blah blah blah, that being honored by your permission to converse, I ought to know how to address you. Shall I say Madame la Comtesse? She laughed, and she would, no doubt, have met me with another evasion, if indeed I can treat any occurrence in an interview, every circumstance of which was prearranged, as I now believe, with the profoundest cunning, as liable to be modified by accident. As to that, she began, but she was interrupted, almost as soon as she opened her lips, by a gentleman, dressed in black, who looked particularly elegant and distinguished, with this drawback, that his face was the most deadly pale I had ever seen, except in death. He was in no masquerade, in the plain evening dress of a gentleman, and he said, without a smile, but with a courtly and unusually low bow, Will Madame la Comtesse permit me to say a very few words which may interest her? The lady turned quickly to him and touched her lip in token of silence. She then said to me, Keep my place for me, General. I shall return when I have said a few words. And with this injunction, playfully given, she walked a little aside with the gentleman in black, and talked for some minutes, apparently very earnestly. They then walked away slowly together in the crowd, and I lost them for some minutes. I spent the intervening blah blah. I don't know how, I apologize for my misspeakings as well. I spent the interval in cudgeling my brains for a conjecture as to the identity of the lady who seemed to remember me so kindly, and I was thinking of turning about and joining in the conversation between my pretty ward and the Countess's daughter, and trying whether, by the time she returned, I might not have a surprise in store for her by having her name, title, chateau, and estates at my fingers' ends. But at this moment she returned, accompanied by the pale man in black, who said, I shall return and inform Madame la Comtesse when her carriage is at the door. He withdrew with a bow. And that is the end of chapter 11 of Carmilla. So that is where we will leave it for now. So starting to get into the thick of the story. Maybe the next the next chapters all do more than one chapter together. But thanks for choosing to spend some time with me here today for another chapter of the classic Carmilla. I hope you and your loved ones are safe and well, and I look forward to hanging out together again soon here on the channel. And as always, if you have any requests for a story in particular that you would like me to read, just drop it down in the comments section and I will look into it. But goodbye for now, folks.